Throughout time, people across the world told each other tales of how they came to be, of heroes and monsters, romance and tragedy, death and rebirth. Mythology helped shape the ancient world, explaining the unexplainable. This is Mythology Unleashed. In many cultures, human skeletons have been associated with dark and chilling imagery. Some legends have monsters and revenants that resemble human skeletons that can move without skin, muscle, or organs. Even the Grim Reaper, the artistic incarnation of death from medieval Europe, was popularly depicted as a cloaked skeleton with a scythe. But one skeletal monster from Japanese mythology stood head and ribcage above all the others: Gashadokuro. Gashadokuro, whose name translates to rattling skeleton, are skeletal giants that wander the countryside in the dead of night. Some are said to be up to 10 meters, or just shy of 33 feet in height, though some depictions of them show them as being taller than ancient trees. As they move about, their teeth chatter and their bones rattle, echoing through the night and freezing the marrow of any who happen to hear them. But when on the hunt, the monsters make no sound at all, silently creeping up on their victims, before crushing them in their bony hands or biting off their head. Whereas a traditionally mystically animated skeleton was once a human being who died and whose body decayed to bones, a single Gashadokuro was made up of many dead bodies welded into a gigantic demonic being. The deceased who were most likely to become Gashadokuro were soldiers whose bodies were left to rot on battlefields, victims of famine or plague piled in ditches, and those who died in the wilderness and were not granted proper funerary rites. Unable to pass on to the next life, their souls were damned for eternity, with everlasting anger, pain, and hate in their hearts that remained long after their flesh had decayed. As their bodies decayed, their anger would turn to supernatural vengeance against the living, twisting the bones of hundreds of corpses, weaving them together into one mass, and they are given a new undead life as Gashadokuro. The monster's overwhelming hatred of humanity would lead it to prey upon human beings and no other living creature. Unlike other man-eating monsters of legend, who eat humans as a means of sustenance, the Gashadokuro eats people simply because it can, rather than because it would need to, grinding them with their teeth and swallowing them into a dark abyss. To make matters all the scarier, the Gashadokuro have no known weaknesses. They are too large and they are too powerful to be fought or killed. And so the Gashadokuro maintain their existence until the energy and malice stored up in their skeletal bodies has run its course, falling in the wild and dissipating into a demonic mist. Gashadokuro appear in a number of myths and urban legends throughout Japan, but perhaps the most famous involves the real-life figure Taira no Masakado, a renowned samurai warrior from the Kanto region. In the 10th century CE, Masakado ignited a rebellion in Kyoto, referred to as the Tengyo no Ran, attacking major outposts and conquering strong provinces. In order to quell this revolt, the Kyoto officials put a price on his head, and the call was answered by Masakado's own cousin, Taira no Saramori, and Fujiwara no Hidesato, who beheaded him for the promised reward. According to legend, Masakado's daughter, Takayasha Hime, was a renowned sorceress. Vowing revenge against her father's killers, she conjured up the first Gashadokuro with the bones of those who had fought alongside her father, and unleashed her skeletal monster upon Kyoto. It ransacked the city, demolishing buildings and consuming all who strayed into its path, until the beast recovered Masakato's head and returned it to Shibasaki, the fishing village that would go on to become Tokyo. Masakato was forever remembered for his uprising, and the Gashadokuro would be tied to his legend. Skeletons are commonplace in dark fantasy and horror imagery, but none are as massive in scale as the Gashadokuro. Formed from the violent rage that refused to die with the body, and metamorphosed into a giant skeleton many times the size of a human being, these yokai are among the most menacing ever imagined. With their immense size, strength, nigh invulnerability, and compulsion to hunt and devour any human being that they come across, the Gashadokuro are truly nightmarish creatures. If you ever hear an eerie rattling sound out in the dark, it would be wise to run.